Mario, Zelda, Metroid, F-Zero, Star Fox, Pokemon. In the early 2000s, it seemed like Nintendo was pulling out all the stops to make their purple box a success. But where, oh where, was the next Kirby game? Why, right here, they replied, with none other than Kirby Air Ride. Kirby Air Ride is a racing game, believe it or not, that takes a different approach to the normally side-scrolling puffball. You pick from one of several different machines in 3 different modes and race while completing objectives and unlocking new machines, music, characters, and other various objects. And that about covers it. Okay, seriously, let's go into a bit more depth here. As stated before, Air Ride has 3 different modes: Air Ride, Top Ride, and City Trial. Air Ride stands as the basic racing mode, in which you pick a machine, a track, and race against 3 other opponents. Kirby Air Ride prides itself on using a simple control method. This means that, unless you're holding a button, Kirby is on the go, and this makes the game's control scheme a little jarring. You see, most machines are somewhat difficult to turn and require a tap of the brake to do so. It definitely takes some getting used to, and while not horrendous, it adds frustration when you just want to turn.
The Air Ride mode exemplifies this more than any other and is by far the worst. The tracks are fairly boring and you're not always able to follow where you're going. There's not much more to say about it. It's a racer that's built on an interesting premise, but it falls short of doing anything, really.
Next up is Top Ride, and if you've ever played the old Micro Machines games, it's very similar to those. Top Ride maintains Kirby's constant acceleration, but is played from a top-down perspective. So you actually have full 360-degree movement here. Top Ride is pretty fun at first, but it's by far the easiest of all 3 of Air Ride's offerings. You can blaze through each track and wind up in first in about 15 minutes or less, and then not be bothered to go back to it really. It's a nice distraction that plays better than the previous mode, but it isn't enough to hold your interest. City Trial is the last mode in Kirby Air Ride, and it's by and large the best. Players are dropped into a random spot on the map and are tasked with finding an Air Ride machine, upgrading it, avoiding traps, screwing over other players, and figuring out how their machine should be reinforced for the main event. Now this might sound a little bold, but City Trial literally saves this game because it's such a blast to play. The mayhem that can ensue is chaotic and fun, and where in the earlier Air Ride mode the controls were frustrating, here they're actually possible to fix depending on which machine you find and how you upgrade it. You're given free roam in this area to find secrets and destroy several parts of the environment in the process, not to mention attempt to assemble the so-called legendary machines. Grab all 3 parts, and depending on what the stadium event is, you've probably managed to win.
What really does it for City Trial is the multiplayer, which, strangely enough, works, and it works well. It's difficult to describe just how much fun this can be with 3 other people, but trust me, it's quite different than any other racer out there, and that's not a bad thing.
Kirby Air Ride looks and sounds great. Keeping in line with the controls, the scenery, characters, and machines are all fairly simplistic, yet very colorful and pleasing to the eye. The music is great, with several tracks that'll get stuck in your head, and while they might seem to be a little over the top, they tend to fit the mood quite nicely. Kirby Air Ride is far from a perfect title. The supposed main attraction of Air Ride is a bit of a dud. It just comes off as trying to be easy for everyone to play, yet it's really too irritating to hold anyone's interest. Top Ride isn't bad, but it wears off quickly once you beat the computers to a pulp, which won't take long.
City Trial, however, is surprisingly fun, and when you throw 3 other friends into the mix,
you've definitely got a game that's at least somewhat worth checking out, as long as those friends don't mind it sucking a bit.